continuing with the spinal cord, today we will do the remaining tracts in the lateral column, and now we will today discuss the very important tract, that is the corticospinal tract. So corticospinal tract is also called pyramidal tract. It is also called motor pathways. It is also called upper motor neurons. So question can be asked in any of these four parts, the meaning is the same, that we have to describe the corticospinal pathways. So as the name suggests, corticospinal means it starts from the cortex. Cortex means the gray matter, and they come to the spinal cord. So their type is descending. If they are descending, it means they have to terminate into some part of the spinal cord. And when we dissect the spinal cord and when we trace these descending fibers, what we see that the end into the ventral horn cells. So it means functionally they are motor. And when the motor means M for M, means these neurons, these fibers will end into some muscles. And what is the property of the muscle? Contraction and relaxation. So when the muscles they contract, as they cross the joints, so joint moves. And when the joint moves, what we say? The body is moving. That's why the word motor means related to the movement of the body parts. So that's why they are called the motor pathways. So now next heading is the course. That how they start from the cortex and where they terminate into the spinal cord, that we have to do the course of this. So they start from the cortex, and cortex means the cerebral cortex. So they start from the cerebrum. As they are motor, it means they will start from precentral gyrus. Because this area of the cerebrum is called motor area. As the fibers they are called motor fibers, it means they are related to the motor area of the brain or the cerebrum. And we know that the precentral gyrus, the muscles of the human body, they are represented upside down, that is homunculus. So homunculus is the representation of the muscles of the body from head to toe. As we have seen the cerebrum, the gray matter of cerebrum with the various functional areas. So this is the superolateral surface of the cerebrum, and we know that this strip of the gray matter is called the precentral gyrus. In between the central sulcus and precentral sulcus, so this area is called the gray matter, which is called the precentral gyrus, and functionally it is motor in function. And Brodmann has given a number 4. And homunculus means from below upward. So this is a sequence of the muscles which are represented by this strip of the gray matter. So homunculus means, first of all, the muscles of the face, they are controlled from this area of the precentral gyrus, the lowest. Then comes the neck. So this area controls the muscles of the neck. Then upper limb. So this area controls the muscles of the upper limb. Then the next comes thorax. So this area controls the thorax muscles, that is the intercostal muscles and other muscles. Then comes the abdomen. So this strip of the gray matter or cells here, they control the muscles of the abdomen. And the rest of the superior area, this area, the muscles of the thigh are controlled from here. And the muscles of the leg and foot, they are represented on the medial surface, because precentral gyrus is also continued a little bit on the medial surface as well. So this is how we represent the, so this is the precentral gyrus area. It starts from the superior lateral surface, reaches the upper part, then continued on the medial surface a little bit. Because here also the muscles of the, this area controls the muscles of the leg. Then this area, the gray matter, is representing or controlling the muscles of the foot. And the last area of the precentral gyrus here is controlling the muscles of perineum. So this is how the whole of the body from head to toe is represented on the different parts of the precentral gyrus, but it is inverted or from below upward. So face or head neck is below and the leg is above. That's why we use the word homunculus. And this precentral motor area has been represented and has been proved experimentally. As we all know that the brain of the monkey or chimpanzees resembles the human 99%. So we anesthetize the chimpanzee or the monkey and we expose the brain by removing the skull, and we touch the different parts of the precentral gyrus of the experimental animal with the help of a very light electrode. For example, if I touch this strip of the gray matter of the precentral gyrus, the thorax area, what I see that the whole of the animal is still. He is unconscious, he is anesthetized. But when I touch it, what I see that his muscles of the thorax, that the intercostal muscle, they start moving of opposite side. So this experiment proves that this area has got some connection with the muscles of the thorax. Similarly, when I touch the last area of the precentral gyrus, what I see, the muscles of the perineum, they are moving. It means the gray matter of the nerve cell body with the dendrites and cytoplasm and nucleus, they are lying here. The axons which are going downward into the spinal cord as corticospinal will end into the muscles of the perineum. So that's why we represent each and every muscle of the human body from head to toe. That is the function of precentral gyrus. So it is also called cortex. Cortex means again the gray matter. That's why the name is corticospinal tract. So after that, now we will describe the course of the journey of these descending pathways, that is called the corticospinal. They are also called descending pathway. So So question can be asked in any of the form, the answer is the same. So now the cells lying in this strip of the gray matter, that is called precentral gyrus. They are lying in the so this is the coronal section of the precentral gyrus. This is the medial surface, this is the superolateral surface is continuous. So this is the, and what we represent here, that there are present cells and cells. And these cells, they are large in size. They are larger than any other cells in the cerebral cortex or the gray matter. And they are triangular or pyramidal in shape, with their apex is towards the peripheral side, the base is facing centrally. So the fibers of the corticospinal, they start from the pyramidal cells, or they are also called Bedge cells. So the motor fibers or the axons start from here. This is the fibers of the head area. Then comes the face and neck. Then come the muscles of the upper limb. Then the muscles of the thorax. And then the muscles of the abdomen, muscles of the thigh, muscles of the leg, the foot, and the perineum. So all they are now descending down. So as they are descending down, they look like the rays of the sun. So they are like the rays of the sun. That's why now they are called the corona radiata. So corona means sun, radia means radiations. So these fibers, when they descend downward, they are becoming closer. As they go up, they are spreading. So they spread like the sun rays. So that's why they call the corona radiata when they are within the cerebrum. Now as they are coming, we are seeing that they are becoming more and more closer or compact. So now these fibers, they reach at the level of thalamus, or at the level of what we call the diencephalon. So thalamus lies medially. So when they reach at the level of the thalamus, before that these fibers, they twist at 90 degree. Corona radiata fibers, they are twisting at 90-degree angle in such a way that the fibers from the face or head and neck, they come forward, then neck fibers, then upper limb fibers, then thorax, then abdomen, then lower limb and foot. So they are all arranged lateral to the thalamus and medial to the lentiform nucleus, because there is a gap between the thalamus and the lentiform nucleus, through which these fibers, they are twisted at 90 degree in such a way that the face is cranial in position and the lower limb and perineum is in the caudal position or in the posterior position. And all these fibers, now they are again compact together and they assume a shape of a capsule. That's why they are called the internal capsule. So now between the thalamus medially and lentiform nucleus laterally, now their name changes from corona radiata to, now they are the property of posterior limb of the internal capsule. Same fibers. Now their name changes when they reach at the level of the diencephalon or thalamus. So they are now called, they occupy the posterior limb of the internal capsule with body represented straight, means head is anteriorly, neck, then upper limb, the thorax, abdomen, and lower limb faces posteriorly. So that is the presentation. Next, they further descend. As in the internal capsule, the posterior limb, these fibers, they give collaterals to lentiform nucleus. Few fibers, they go to the chordate nucleus, which is also related to the thalamus, and few fibers, they also go to the thalamus. So neighboring structures, few fibers, they also go. They are probably giving the information of the motor activity of these fibers. Now the corona radiata is a very big area. If you measure this area on the brain, human brain, it is about 6 inches long. But when these fibers, when they reach at the level of the internal capsule, if you measure that area, that remains only the 2 centimeter in length or only 1 inch. So all the fibers from head to toe, they are motor fibers which are responsible for the muscle movement. They are confined to only 2 to 3 centimeter. So damage to this 2 or 3 centimeter will have got the same effect as the damage to the 6 inches long precentral gyrus. So that is the clinical importance of the posterior limb of the internal capsule, because head fibers, they lie near the genu, and the foot fibers, they lie posterior. Now next part to the diencephalon is now below is the midbrain. Now as these fibers, they further descend, they becomes more compact. But where the brain ends, or cerebrum ends, this is the line where the cerebrum ends. So where the cerebrum ends, the next part is the midbrain. This is the diencephalon, this is the cerebrum. So they are descending fibers. So now they reach the midbrain. Now they are the property of the midbrain. They becomes more compact. Their size is only 1 centimeter broad. Now their name again changes. Now they are called crus cerebri. Crus means bundle. So in the CNS, the bundles of axons or nerve fibers, sometimes we say the crus, sometimes we say the peduncles, and sometimes we use the word fasciculus. So we use these different bundles in the different areas differently, but the meaning is the same, that the bundles and bundles of axons or nerve fibers. So now when they reach the midbrain, they are called crus cerebri. In the diencephalon, they are called internal capsule, and in the cerebrum, they are called corona radiata. So this is how to attempt this question. You have to explain every step as it is going down. Now in the crus cerebri, the different fibers are present, but corticospinal fibers, they occupy the middle. Three-fifth position, and as they further twist at 90 degree in such a way that the fibers of the face, they are head and neck fibers, they are medially placed, and the foot is lateral in position. Now body represented horizontally here with head facing medially and the lower limb facing lateral in position in this part of the strip of the crus cerebri. So medial is the head and lateral is this. So this is the crus cerebri. Now in the further course of the journey of these descending fibers, now they reach the next part, that is the pons. In the pons, what happens? So in the pons there are present pontine nuclei deep to the surface of the pons. Plus the medial 1/5 of the crus cerebri, it contains frontopontine fibers. Frontopontine fibers. So these fibers, they relay in the pontine nuclei, and from here the second order neuron, they go to the opposite of the pons and they reach the middle cerebellar peduncle. So fibers, they are descending and they are going to the opposite side. So that is the internal structure of the pons. The lateralmost fibers in the crus cerebri, they are the parietopontine, occipitopontine and temporopontine. They are also coming into the pontine nuclei. They are relaying in the pontine nuclei, parietopontine, occipito and temporopontine. And they are also going to the opposite side, crossing the midline of the pons. So this is the structure of the pons. Now these descending corticospinal fibers, because of the presence of the corticopontine fibers and the nuclei of the pons, these descending fibers, they are scattered. They do not pierce the nuclei, but they go sideways of these nuclei. So in this way what happens? There is a dispersion or scattering of the dispersal of the pontine nuclei to the larger area, and pontine nuclei along with the corticopontine fibers along with the corticospinal causes the surface elevation of the pons. So this elevation, we make the pons like this, it is because of the underlying nuclei and scattered corticospinal descending fibers. It is responsible for the baby doll type of the ventral surface of the pons. So they are the hairs of the baby doll, and basilar sulcus is the midline of the head of the baby doll, Barbie doll. And laterally all these fibers from the pons, they all converge to form the middle cerebellar peduncle, which will enter into cerebellum. So they are the ponytail of the Barbie doll. So middle cerebellar peduncle is like the two ponytails of the Barbie doll going into cerebellum. So this is how we exemplify what is the pons. Now in the further descending, after midbrain, the fibers, they reach the pons and they are scattered or widely distributed, but next part is the medulla oblongata. So when they reaches the pontomedullary junction, where the pons ends and the medulla start, these fibers, they again becomes compact. They again becomes close together, and on the surface of the pons, on the medulla, they form a pyramid shape elevation on the ventral surface of the medulla. Broad from above, and as we go down they becomes narrow. So just on the either side of the anterior median sulcus of the medulla, below the pontomedullary junction, on either side, they assume a shape of a pyramid, and because of this, we use the word pyramid. So in the medulla oblongata, they are pyramidal shape. So pyramid is made up of white matter of corticospinal fibers, and because of the pyramid of the medulla, the corticospinal fibers, they are also called pyramidal fibers. The name given by the pyramid of the medulla. As further descent, in the lower part of the medulla, where the brain ends, at the upper border of the C1 or atlas vertebra, is the end of the medulla or the brain and start of the spinal medulla or the spinal cord. So in the lower part of the medulla, 85% of these corticospinal fibers, they cross to the opposite side. 85%. And this crossing is also visible on the surface of the medulla in the lower part as the interruption of the anterior median sulcus. And this crossing is called pyramidal decussation. Pyramidal decussation. While the rest of the 15%, out of this 85% they cross and they descend down deep inside the medulla. Now they enter into the spinal cord. In the spinal cord, they becomes more compact and they enter into the lateral column of the spinal cord, and they descend into the whole of the 45 centimeter long length of the spinal cord. So these 85% crossed fibers, they form the lateral corticospinal tract. They form the lateral corticospinal tract because they are present in the lateral column of the white matter and lies medial to the posterior spinocerebellar tract. While rest of the 15% which are uncrossed, they descend in the anterior funiculus or anterior column as anterior corticospinal tract, or fibers which are only 15%. They are uncrossed. So this is the journey how it traverses whole of the forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain, and then ultimately reaches the spinal cord as the lateral and the anterior corticospinal tract. So now we can easily make the spinal cord diagram to show where this lateral corticospinal tract we have to make whenever a question of the pyramidal tract is asked. So similarly, same diagram we are again repeating. Fasciculus gracilis elevation, lateral is fasciculus cuneatus elevation. Then we have to make the posterior horn of the gray matter with conical apex and the base is broad. Continue anteriorly as the right and left two ventral horns with central canal with CSF in it. This is the lateral line showing the lateral column of the white matter of the spinal cord. This is the anterior median fissure. So corticospinal fiber